Welcome to Frontline Angles. I am host and moderator of this program, Anthony Costagliola. During this program, you will hear America's teenagers discuss and debate major social, political, and economic issues our world faces today, and how those issues might be resolved in the future. During this segment of the program, my classmates and I will take an in-depth look at the college admissions process. How do colleges review and select the students who will attend their school? What affirmative action policies are in effect across the nation, and how will they affect us? Are there any court cases regarding these policies? What steps must an 11th grade high school student take to begin their college selection process, and ultimately choose the correct school? We understand that many of our viewers will experience this process, some sooner than others, and my panelists and I will do our best to provide you with important information and hopefully give you an angle on how this whole process works. We hope you enjoy this From All Angles program on the college admissions process. You can look us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at From All Angles. Once again, I am Anthony Costagliola. I am a junior in Dr. Leary's Period 4 U.S. History 2 Thematics class, varsity soccer player, and an executive board member of the Wayne Hills National Honor Society. Now, I ask my panelists to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Hoyoung Choi. I'm a member of Dr. Leary's Period 4 U.S. 2 Thematics class. I took an in-depth look on court cases pertaining to affirmative action, and I'm a member of the boys varsity team, volleyball team.
My name is Christina Fabiano. I'm a debater here in Dr. O'Leary's Period 4 U.S. 2 Thematics class. I took an in-depth look in junior year of high school. I'm a captain of the girls' field hockey team and basketball team, a member of the girls' softball team, a member of the National Honor Society, the Heroes and Cool Kids program, and the Freshman Buddy System.
Hi, I'm Tyler Mebbione. I'm a debater here in Dr. O'Leary's Period 4 U.S. Thematics class. I took an in-depth look at recommendations for the college process. I am a boys soccer player and I run track.
Hi, my name is Tyler Harris and I'm a part of Dr. O'Leary's 4th period U.S. 2 Thematics class. And I took an in-depth look in selecting college or university, and I play boys lacrosse.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Naravi. I'm a member of Dr. Leary's Period 4 U.S. 2 Thematics class. I took an in-depth look at college applications, and I'm National Honor Society historian.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Robertson. I'm a historian in Dr. Leary's U.S. 2's Thematics class. I did in-depth research on college deadlines. I'm a varsity cheerleader, I'm a gymnastics coach, and I'm in FBLA.
Now, Ms. Fabiano, I think it's appropriate that we begin the show by explaining how one begins the college admissions process. Ultimately, when is the first time one should start selecting a college, and what is the best way to do it?
Well, Anthony, the earlier you start, the better. The first thing you need to do is really evaluate yourself and what you think you want to do for the rest of your life. Think about things like if you want to go far away from school, from home, if you want to play sports, and really try and narrow down colleges based upon that.
And with all that, can you receive any assistance, from maybe guidance counselors? Or?
Of course, guidance counselors really start early. In middle school, we do things on the computer about what we think we want to major in, what we would like to do for the rest of our lives. And then once we reach high school, guidance counselors help us with websites such as Naviance, College Board, and Student Review, so you can find a lot of information on there.
Yeah, I've heard of Naviance. Do you find it very helpful, or?
Well, my favorite in particular is Student Review because you can talk with students from the colleges already, and they could tell you what they like about it, about specific things like the food and dorms and things like that.
Yeah. I guess it's very helpful, but I guess when you wanted to decide what college is right, as you said, you have to ask some students, but what do you think you should really start to consider?
You should start to consider mainly your budget first, because if you don't have enough money to go to college, you're gonna have a lot of student loans, and it also depends on how much money you're willing to have in student loans after you graduate. And then next you must decide on what you're planning to study, what you want to major in, and then location, because that's one of the most important things, because you might not want to have to take plane flights out, for example, Colorado. You could go in-state. And then you got to focus on enrollment of how many people and how large a school is, the class sizes, and the faculty to teacher ratio, and financial aid that you might receive, co-ed or single sex, and other choices are like Greek life, housing and sports, and also class diversity.
Would you say that like the most important factor to consider would be budget, or would it be something
I
else?
would consider the most important thing to be budget, because some colleges won't accept you if you don't have a plan to pay for your college.
I probably agree with that. And another critical part of the admissions process is recommendation letters. How does one really request and get a recommendation letter?
To request a recommendation, most times people will go to their guidance counselor. Like, that's how they learn about getting recommendations, like what they need, what each college needs. A lot of colleges want like a teacher from your junior year that goes with your major normally. Like, if you're going to major in like math, they probably don't want an English teacher. You'd go and ask the teacher. You'd probably want to be like polite about it, because they are doing this for you. They're not getting paid for it. And I don't know what to say.
Well, would you say like you wanted to have something related to your major, but do you think that you might have a little like diversity or something? Maybe some of your weak points too is some teachers might even like tell you what you can improve on, or just, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you could have a recommendation from a teacher from your weak point, so they can explain how you've like grown from the weakness and how you can kind of build on that, or at least you try.
It's always a good idea to get a recommendation letter from a subject that you're not particularly the best in. Like, say you take foods, for example. It might not be the best idea to get a recommendation letter from your foods teacher if you get straight A's, but maybe from your math teacher where you get C's, but you really try hard and go to extra help, because they can write a letter about how much you work and things like that.
Yeah, I agree with that, because then it will really show your work ethic to the colleges. And I've heard that once you have a recommendation letter, you're not allowed to read it or see what the teacher has said. Do you agree with this policy?
No, I don't at all. I mean, okay, yeah, colleges might think different about you if you like are able to see it because they know you have input in it. But if you're not able to see it, you don't necessarily know what they wrote about you. It could be bad. They could be completely bashing you the whole time. I don't exactly agree with not being able to see it, because there's no guarantee at all in like what they're going to tell you, what they're going to tell the colleges. It could be good, granted, but not necessarily.
Yeah. What about anybody else? Do you agree or disagree with the policy?
I kind of disagree, because if you're not showing the student the letter, then the teacher can be completely honest at all times. They don't have to hide what they really feel about the student. And I think that's most important.
I agree with Jasmine. I think that if we don't see the letter, then it's more honest, and your true character will really come out. You wouldn't go to a teacher who you think they'll write poorly about you, so you should have confidence in the teacher that they'll help you get into college.
But you don't always know like that the teacher is going to do it. You could think you have a good like relationship with them, but that's not always like a guarantee.
But that's why you have to pick a teacher that you really feel like you have a good relationship with, because if not, then you can't guarantee it.
Well, the whole relationship is just based on like what you see. Like, they could see you as being like an annoying student, and you could just think like they're just being nice to you the whole time.
If that was true, then they wouldn't write you the recommendation letter. They'd politely say, sorry, I don't think I'm the right person for that.
You have to be able to trust your teachers and know that they're here to help you get into college.
All right, guys, I think we had a pretty good first segment, but I think we're going to have to go to a close. Looks like this is all the information we could fit into the first segment from all angles. Today, my panel discussed what first steps must be taken when choosing a college, and also some additional parts of the admission process. Now that you have a brief understanding of what is being discussed in this episode, let's take a quick break. Make sure you stay tuned and listen to more on the interesting, and for many of you relevant, process of college admissions. Welcome back to From All Angles. If you're just tuning in, I'm your host and moderator, Anthony Costagliola. In the first segment, you heard from our experts on various aspects of applying for colleges, such as how one begins to decide which college suits them, where to seek help. We also discussed what other steps must be taken when applying to schools. During this segment of the program, we will continue to discuss the process of college admissions and what colleges look for in their applicants. How about we go to Ms. Zaritsky? She's been going around the school interviewing students and staff on this issue. Let's get some more info on what others think about the college admissions process.
Welcome back. I'm Liana Zaritsky, your Kids in the Halls host. Today for college applications, I'm going to be interviewing various teachers and students. Here with me is Mrs. Kowalski. Ms. Kowalski, do you have any advice for any future seniors that are going to be applying next year for colleges?
Thanks, Liana. Yes, actually, it's a very exciting time, but also a very busy time. So one of the most important things that current juniors and seniors can be doing right now is to start getting organized. There's a lot of information and a lot of pieces to the process that you need to put together. So it's really important that you get organized, that you make yourself a list of what you're looking for, what is important to you, what qualities in a college are important to you, and also a list of things about yourself, your resume, your intended major, areas of study, GPA, SAT scores. So you kind of have everything in one place and you're organized when you're looking at schools. Make a list of the questions that you want to ask when you go on visits to colleges, which you should also be doing when you're developing a list of schools that you're interested in visiting. And then from that list, you're going to be eventually developing a list of schools that you're applying to in the fall. So getting organized and doing your research, because you don't want to be at the end of the summer not ready for the beginning of September when suddenly you feel stressed. You want to do as much as you can so that you alleviate a lot of that stress. And the best way to do that is to get yourself organized.
Okay. And then, for the students that are undecided or just not sure, how do you help them, decide which approach to take?
Undecided about...
the schools.
Okay.
The majors in general.
Many students are very undecided. And first of all, you have to understand that it's perfectly normal and okay to be undecided. Part of the process of senior year, and even beyond that, is exploring different majors, different areas of study in different schools, and finding what you really like best of all, what really fits you. So it's okay to be undecided. At some point, though, you do need to make a decision about what comes after Wayne Hills High School. And again, being organized and having discussions with your parents and your counselor, who can really help you to reflect on what's important to you and what you're really looking for. And, I'm a big one for making lists, listing the pros and cons of particular schools. If you're between 2 or 3 schools, list things that you like about those schools, list things that you're not so sure about, and then read it over a couple of times. But talk with your parents, because they obviously have a big part in making this decision with you, and talk with your counselors, because we really do want to help you when you're between decision making and you're trying to really determine what it is about one school versus the other, and we can help a lot in those ways as well. It is sometimes a stressful process, but it's also an exciting process, and we're here to help you. Again, being organized and getting your research done, getting answers to your questions can really go a long way in helping to alleviate a lot of that worry, and helping to make that decision-making process a lot easier for you.
Thanks, Mrs. Kowalski.
You're welcome.
All right, guys, so what Ms. Kowalski said about organization for school, I think that's very important. What do you guys think about that? Ms. Naravi, what do you think?
I think it's really important to be organized, because if you're not, then you don't know what's going to happen when it's almost school time again. We're applying, and you're not going to have enough time to put everything together. And I think if you have it done in the beginning of the summer, or you're getting visiting done, then it'll be easier for you when it's really stressful.
I agree with her, because if you're organized, I think you should start by sophomore year deciding what major you would want to go along with when you go to college. And then visiting those colleges junior year, preparing for SATs, ACTs, any testing scores that'll help you get to the college you would like to go to. I agree with her.
All right. I guess we can go to the next segment now. Let's go to Leanna with another Kids in the Halls, and let's go.
Now with me is David Ostern. Dave, besides grades and classes, what do you think is the most important thing to put on your transcript, to have on your transcript?
Well, aside from grades and SAT scores, I definitely think the most important thing is your extracurricular activities and how you have taken your skills and abilities and used them to join clubs, community service organizations. Fortunately, I've had the experience of being student council president twice and president of the school once. In addition, I also took up a community service role of being on the Board of Education, where once a month I go to the board meetings. I talk about some of the issues that are going on in the high school, what are the good things that are going on in the high school, and also try to give them some perspective on what a student believes are the steps that should be taken in terms of how this district needs to progress. But I definitely think that all of your extracurricular activities are the most important aspect.
And for your college, how did you decide what topic to write your essay on?
My essay was very interesting. I took an approach that it wasn't sort of like an obstacle. I guess it was sort of an obstacle, but it was kind of just like I needed to sit down. I needed to think for a few hours. I needed to say to myself, what is somebody going to read and say, that's very interesting? And I ended up writing about how I grew up in a close-knit family with a brother and 2 cousins, and how they always played sports, and how I didn't want to play sports, and how I had to find my own path, and that led me to go into like a more political, more giving type thing, as opposed to just playing sports all the time. So I think the biggest thing for people that are writing the essays are, just sit down, focused, just be by yourself for a couple hours, and just think to yourself, what has happened in my life that somebody will read and say, this is what this kid is going to bring to the table at our college.
Thank you.
All right, guys, I thought what David Austin said was actually very interesting, especially about the college essay and choosing a topic that colleges will really find, interesting, like want to read and think this student is the one that we want at the school. What do you guys think about what he said?
I actually disagree with him because I think grades are more important than the college essay, because your grades show your progress throughout all your years in high school instead of just one essay.
That's interesting. Does anybody think that maybe like your grades just have a little bit more weight than like as Tyler thinks?
I think that your grades are really important, but the essay shows your personality, and I think that they really want to distinguish people. So if 2 people have 4 O's, the essay is going to come in clutch for them.
I most definitely agree with that. Now, what about extracurriculars? Because it seemed David Austin had pretty fantastic extracurricular activities, especially getting involved in his community. What do you guys think about that?
I believe extracurricular activities are very crucial in the college process, because there could be 2 students that have 4.0s, for example, and they could be even flat. However, if they have one extracurricular activity that is like more advanced or whatever than the other student, they're going to take that student over the one that doesn't have anything.
All right, that's very interesting. All right, let's go to our next Kids at the Halls in this segment. I just got word that we have a little change-up, actually. Instead of Leanna doing the interview, I hear Grace Ann Gissemi has done an interview for us out there in the halls. Just be prepared. She is a little loud. Now let's take a look to see what they have to say.
Hi, I'm Grace Ann Gissemi, filling in for Leanna today, and this is Kids in the Hall. Today I'm interviewing Max Seidman. So Max, what were some of the most stressful moments you experienced during your college application process?
I would definitely say the college essays. Each one of my colleges basically asked for a different essay, which was incredibly annoying, having to write essays over and over again. And even then, once I had my essay, I would have to do draft after draft after draft, and I cannot even count the amount of fights that I got into with my mom when I was trying to get those essays done. They're just a pain in the butt, and I dread anyone who has to do them.
Wow, that's stressful. All right, the second question I want to ask you, Max, is what would be some advice, if any, that you would give to any junior or senior applying to colleges?
Well, like I said, my essays were extremely stressful. One of the reasons that was because I waited until September and October when I was in high school already to do them. I would say to any senior applying to college, get it done in the summer. Having it done in the summer is a really convenient thing, knowing that you don't have to worry about it when you have a million other things to worry about with school. Don't put it off. Don't procrastinate. I procrastinated. I still procrastinate, and it's a terrible thing. Just get it done while you can. Get it done while you have the time. I know summer's a really fun time, but just push through it and get it done.
All right, thank you, Max.
All right, I think that Max gave some pretty helpful advice, once again, about the essay. Does anybody have an opinion that they would like to share about what Max said?
I think the essay is very important, except it's kind of difficult to really talk about what you want to talk about if it's limited because of the question, because sometimes questions are a little bit less vague than you'd rather them to be, so that you could really fully express yourself.
I get that. Sometimes maybe just a little bit too specific. Anybody else have an opinion?
Like the whole Common App, it kind of limits you topics, and that's what most schools go with. So you either use their topics, which are sometimes the most annoying and difficult things to work with in the first place, or you don't apply to those colleges that require it. It's
All
kind
right.
of gets you stuck.
And you mentioned Common App. Do you mind like explaining what the Common App is and how it's used by some students?
Sure. The Common App, more or less, is something that kind of takes all your applications to a bunch of colleges and puts it together into one kind of package, I guess, and allows you to send that same package to to every college.
Ms. Fabiano, do you have anything to say?
Well, I agree with him. I think that from what he said before, that the Common App is really hard to deal with because of the question. But I think that colleges that let you write about what you really want to write about is where you can really express yourself.
Yeah, I do feel like a question that's a little more vague and allows you to express yourself will be much more beneficial.
And it's a little bit odd how if a lot of schools are using the Common App, they're still charging like different prices to apply to their colleges. Like for example, Villanova costs $80 to apply there, but you can have other schools that cost up to $100, and it doesn't make sense to me.
That's outrageous. I'm not sure if that's fair. All right, well.
But wait, I think that applying to a lot of colleges gives you a better chance. So it's definitely worth the money that you pay for like $100 per application.
Gotcha.
So I think that the more you apply to, that you have a better chance to getting to the college you want to.
But yeah,
All right, wait, I'm sorry. That's all the time we have. We will now take a short break. When we come back, our viewers will hear more about the college admissions process. Do not miss out on this discussion. We will be right back.
Hello again. Now I'm interviewing the assistant principal of Wayne Hills High School, Mr. Palzewski. So, Mr. Palzewski, obviously besides grades and classes, what do you think is the most important thing for a student to have on their transcript when applying to college?
I think a variety of activities is important to have on your transcript, as well as work experience. I think colleges want to see that you're responsible, that you're out there, that you are involved in many different things like work activities. Also, some areas of leadership. So it not only are union activities, but what kind of leadership qualities have you demonstrated?
Good answer. Also, Mr. Palzewski, how do you help the students with deciding what approach to take or which schools to apply?
I think students, particularly in their junior year, beginning of junior year, need to start to think about what areas of the country or state that they want to go to, warm or cold, what type of school, large or small. What their interests lie in, and do those schools start to match up with the interests? And then they have to go out and visit. You hear it all the time. I think if you interviewed seniors, which I'm sure you have, and recent graduates, when you get on that campus, for some reason, you just know this is the place for me. It happened when I went to college. I hear that all the time, and I think it's really important just to get out there and see what's available to you.
All right, thank you very much.
Welcome back to From All Angles. We're now going to continue our debate on the college admissions process. So I believe like the competition for applicants, it's been changing a lot. How do like colleges narrow down the applicants?
Well, there are a lot of academic and non-academic factors that go into it, and some of them are a little controversial these days. They include one's academic GPA, their class rank, alumni relation, application essay, extracurricular activities, geographical residence, which is like where you live, character and personal qualities, recommendations, work experience, rigor of secondary school record, talent, ability, race, interview, ethnic status, and standardized tests.
They also have something called holistic review, which they kind of like emphasize your student abilities and your experiences in your life, and like so that like deals with your essay and like other things you want to talk about.
That's very interesting. And like actually I've noticed that like colleges clearly seem to like review more than just like an applicant's like personal performance in high school now. And like, do you believe that colleges should take race into account when accepting students, or like should they really not have like a fair chance of being selected?
Yeah, I don't think it's fair at all that they're looking into your race. I don't think it matters that where you come from or what ethnicity you are, and it kind of makes it unfair for everyone else who should be getting into schools that they're not because of their race.
Well, the college that are using race as like a factor, it kind of affects the whole student body, because if you if they kind of have like a quota, it kind of develops into that, where they only accept a certain amount of students of each race, like in their accepting class, before they cut you off and they just start denying you, even though you might have better credentials than, say, person of like a different race.
So do people think that's fair? Because I think you might get a little angry if you are more qualified, but you just are not the right race.
I don't think it's fair, but however, college, the application, the whole process, it is a business. Tyler said, it is a quota, so there's going to be certain percentages of different races for each college, and they take into consideration certain races. So they're going to only take a certain amount of African Americans, certain amount of whites, certain amount of Asians. That's just how the business is. So it's pretty much like you luck out or you get lucky.
Well, I don't know why it should be that way, because it's about education, not about money. Well, that's what I think. I don't think it should be about that.
I agree with Jasmine, because if you have proper credentials, you should get in regardless of your race or religion.
I agree with them also, but from the point where they decide if you can get in from where you live, I also don't think that's fair, because someone in Wayne can work just as hard as someone in Patterson, but someone in Patterson would probably be more likely to get in with the same grades. But I don't think that's fair, because it doesn't really say much about the person except for where their parents chose to live.
Another thing that kind of bothers me is the fact that they go based on alumni. So, like, if you have like older siblings or family like that have gone there, you have a higher chance of getting in. It just really deals with connections rather than your actual credentials.
Yeah, it's like who you know, not what you know. And anybody else have an opinion on that?
College really should just be based on the individual itself. You apply to these colleges with recommendations and all these other things. That should be based on if you get accepted or not. It shouldn't have to be considered with race or anything else whatsoever.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. Anybody else have an opinion, or? Well, another thing that's interesting about the college application process is deadlines, and there's something called rolling admissions. Can anybody explain what rolling admissions is and if there's a benefit?
Rolling admissions is after you apply to it, after you apply to a school. Rolling admission is just telling you whether or not you got in. You could do either early decision or regular decision when applying to a school. Pretty much just rolling admission just really tells you whether or not you got in, and then they tell you, they give you all the stuff you need for the future of going to that college if you're going to accept it or not.
And you mentioned something called early decision. Would you mind explaining that?
Early decision, you pretty much apply to a school. Early decision, you pretty much have to go to that school once you apply to it. Say if I'm applying to Villanova, I would apply somewhere between November 15th and December 15th, while regular decision is between December 15th and February 15th. All
right, well, I'm sorry, that's all the time we have today. That's very interesting stuff, but that concludes the fourth and final topic of From All Angles, focus on the college admissions process, an experience most will face as they progress through their education. I would like to thank our outstanding panel of experts who spoke about this meticulous process, as well as enlightening us with information regarding affirmative action policies, court rulings, acquiring recommendations, meeting deadlines, and choosing the right college for you. That seems to be all we can fit into this segment on the college admissions process. Once again, my name is Anthony Costagliola, your host and moderator From All Angles. This concludes our final segment of the show. I hope you enjoyed our program, and thank you for watching.